Would you like us to start? Or wait a little bit?
Yeah, we're just getting hot water.
Fantastic.
Is starting the live stream? Okay, Mary, I think we can start over. The live stream just started.
Okay. One, two, three, testing. Dear friends, can everybody hear me back there? And back there? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Well, welcome to Rumi's night of wedding. Anyone here who's not familiar with Rumi? Put your hands up. So, your first time. Okay, there's always first time to everything. Anyone else? Two, no, three, okay. Anyone else? Don't be shy. How about this side? So, all right, the majority know already about Rumi. So, what I would do is I would divide you to two sections, and those who know about Rumi will tell those who don't know. Does that make sense? No. Okay. That was the joke of the day. You can smile. Rumi, I will say tonight, I say a few things about Rumi, just a very short and condensed bio from the top of my head. We will discuss why Rumi refers to his night of departure, the night of dying, leaving this world, materialistic world, as his wedding night. Also, we talk about his philosophy. As you know, he was a Sufi. So what is really Sufism? Then we have some of his poetry in the original language in which he wrote. We have some good translations for you. And we will have some songs that hopefully you can also sing with us. So, let's see. So without further ado, let me ask, also I asked who does not know about Rumi much. Anyone speaking Persian in this room, put your hands up. No Persian speakers, very few. Okay. Anyone who speaks Turkish? Well, we have a few. All right. Okay, so let me start with the short bio of Rumi. As you know, Rumi was born in the city of Balkh, which is today's Afghanistan. And by the time he was, some say 11, some say 13, there's not much difference. So his father decides to move from Balkh. So Balkh, of course, at that time was part of the Persian Empire. So a lot of people claim Rumi. The Greeks say he was from Rome or Rum. So he was Greek, and Persians say, well, he was born in the Persian Empire, so he's Persian. And the Afghans say, of course, he's Afghan. He lived most of his adult life in Turkey and died in Turkey, so some Turks say he's Turkish. In other words, the whole world claimed him. Bottom line is, he was such a great soul, a wonderful person that everybody wanted him. But yes, he does belong to the world. And his legacy and philosophy, which is really acceptance, but goes beyond acceptance, because acceptance means I accept you. But he also talks about unconditional love. Like accepting you is one thing, but to love you is definitely further. And it's not always easy to love everyone. This is not a new teaching. Jesus teaches us to even love your enemy, all the mystics. But it's easy to say and yet difficult to do. So he follows his father. He was, as I said, only 11, some say 13. They first go to Mecca, and then Iraq, and then Turkey. First he goes to a city of Erzincan, and then eventually to Konya, and then he resides in Konya pretty much till the end of his life. He wrote naturally in his mother tongue, Persian, so he has over 60,000 lines of poetry, by far. That has the largest quantity of poetry that one poet has. Now, I'd like to say a few words about why he himself calls the night of his departure his wedding night. I'm sure some of you know. Anyone has an idea? You can share with us. No one knows? Or you just being kind?
He was married to God?
He was married to God. Actually, in a way, yes. In a way, yes, because I was looking for that hot water. But it's okay. All right, great, fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, I know it's at first one would shock. Well, because his main connection, his main concern, his main connection, concern, and priority was God. So yes, like people say, I'm married to my job. like I'm really dedicated. So his dedication was to God. So in that respect, you're right. But there is another figurative and metaphoric reason too, because not only Rumi, all mystics, but especially, since we are celebrating Rumi today here, death does not exist. Real death, because of the soul. Of course, our body dies. Our body lives, as Baba Tahir says, even if you live 100, 110, 120, eventually our body dies. But our soul does not die. So when the cage of the body, as Rumi calls it, breaks, the soul connects to its creator. That's why. So joining, reconnecting to its real origin, to its real beloved. That's why he called it my wedding night. In modern Persian, of course, you say SHEB-I ARUS. I guess on those days, maybe with their accent, a little bit of an Afghan accent, they would say SHEB-I ARUS, but it's SHEB-I ARUS, the night of wedding, or the wedding night. So you can see how he was embracing, welcoming departure from this world. It was not attached like most of us. We are clinging on to anything and everything materialistic. We are so afraid of losing our belongings, our attachments, all the way from money, land, home, possessions, even our loved ones, family. So Rumi says, do love, of course, your family, but take care of them more like a duty, and give your heart to the creator of the heart. Beautiful paintings. So, well, I'm glad to see so many people are interested in Rumi. I'm not surprised. I myself loved Rumi all my life, and I love the subject. But in this day and age, it is heartwarming to see so many people like yourself that come here and want to know more about Rumi. Finally, I'd like to say one more thing about Sufism, because it is Rumi's night, or Rumi's afternoon. The word Sufi has two main meanings. The old-fashioned traditional way, which there are some truth to it too, they say Sufism come from the word suf, which means wool. And as I said, there are some truth to that. Many of the old-fashioned Sufis used to wear woolen gowns. So they say Sufis are those who wear a woolen gown. So thus they think that Sufi comes from the word suf, which is an Arabic word for wool. And as I said, there is definitely some truth to that. I will not make a judgment, I'll leave the judgment to you. But Rumi differs. He says, Sufi nashabat Safi, Safi nashabat Sufi. It goes on. He says, Sufi is a person that doing his inner selves refining their inner self to be filtered, to be cleansed, to be purified. So the word saf, which is also Arabic word, means actually clean, cleansed, filtered, purified. I know in some languages has an expressional meaning, like in Turkey when we say saf means naive, gullible. But that's just the expression. Even that, it comes from the word pure, because it says you're like a child, so pure, so you're gullible, you believe everything they tell you. Even in Turkish when we say saf, but it's not a Turkish or a Persian word. Saf is Arabic, and it really means filtered, cleansed, purified. So Sufis are men and women, according to Rumi, that are cleaning, filtering, purifying their inner selves. Now, yes, true, many of them in the past wore woolen gown, and that was because out of modesty. Imagine in Saudi Arabia 1400 years ago, the cotton, the Egyptian cotton was very expensive. The Chinese silk was very expensive, but wool, they had cattle, they had camels, so it was the most available and reasonable price. So one of the backbone of the work of a mystic in any religion, especially Abrahamic streams, is modesty. To be down to earth, not to show off, not to brag. But alas, a lot of part of the Sufism has been commercialized. And they buy and sell these gowns and the outfit and the hat, and they say, here's my Sufi hat, here's my Sufi shoes. This is a Sufi dance, this is a Sufi thing. So, it's been really hijacked, and it has lost so much of its authenticity, and therefore it's beautiful, fragrant. It doesn't matter, you can wear a woolen gown, you can wear anything, that's not going to help you be a different person. It does not advance your soul. So, it's not what we wear. It's the backbone of the practice you do every day, every week, every month, every hour of the day. So it adds up, minute by minute, second by second. And also, a lot of people by mistake refer to Sufism as a religion. They say Sufism is a religion, that blah, blah. Sufism is not a religion, it's the mystical dimension of Islam. Does that mean the mysticism or spirituality does not exist in other religions? Of course it does, especially Christianity. But in Islam, it's called Sufism. So it's the mystical dimension of Islam. Sufis, as I said, again, there are many branches of Sufis. Another mistake people do, they think, for instance, all Sufis whirl, or all Sufis do the same kind of zikr, or all Sufis wear same kind of clothes or have exactly the same belief or details. So wherever you have Muslims, or we say Muslim, we have supposedly 1.7, some say 1.8 billion Muslims around the world. Wherever you have Muslims, you have Sufis. There is of course, smaller number. that are practicing the mysticism. So, a Muslim in Iraq, Sufis in Iraq, slightly different, their outfit, their accent, the poetry they do. Then, for instance, in Saudi Arabia, if there are Sufis there, I'm sure there must be. Then in Egypt, then in Iran, then in Turkey, Syria, wherever. And here in America or in African countries. So wherever you have Muslims, you definitely have Sufis. You don't have to be Muslim to enjoy and practice, the teaching of Sufism. So that's to enjoy and to practice, to benefit from them is one thing, but if you really want to get into it, like I say, and be a traditional Sufi, then then one has to really immerse into that tradition. Well, that's the short bio and description I wanted to give you on those three things: Rumi's bio, and then what is the meaning of the word Sufi, etc. So towards the end, we will have a few minutes for anyone who would like to, if you have a question about the subject, the poetry, the instruments, we definitely are happy to answer that. So without further ado, let me introduce my musician friends. To my left, we have Gail Wiggin on the frame drum, vocals, and she will recite some poetry for you. To my right, we have Yvette Gugas on the frame drum, and also will recite poetry for you. We all are a little bit under the weather. That's why we're drinking hot water. So I don't know how much of a singing I can do, but we will try. Maybe one more thing, Yvette, can I borrow your DAF, please? All right, so also say a few things about the whirling. Anybody who's not have not seen the whirling or whirlers before? Okay, so whirling, again, I have to tell you that whirling is also interesting because some call it a dance. I don't have any problem with calling it a dance. Some call it practice. It is a spiritual practice, but it's also can be a dance of joy. When you get intoxicated with the divine love. Sometimes you start dancing. So this dance that oftentimes people say Rumi invented, some say his son, but Rumi really from his childhood, just like we have these pillars here, where Rumi made his home a mosque. And he had pillars just like we have these pillars. And he used to just grab one of these pillars and go round and round the pillars. And the poetry would come out of him like a volcano. That's very interesting because in America, in English, we say writing poetry. In Persian, we say she'r guftan, which means to utter poetry. So rather than sitting thinking, and Persian classical poetry has to be perfectly metered, the end has to rhyme, it has to make perfect sense, and there are so many different kinds of poetry because there are couplets, then there's 4 lines, 6 lines, 10 lines, it goes on and on. So there's so many different kinds and so many different weight to it. So, but he was just, in modern English, we say he was oozing out of him. He was just going around and the poetry was coming out of him like a volcano. And his son, together with some of his other students, they were writing. Sometimes he did not even remember what poetry he uttered. He says, "To mapendar ke in she'r be khud miguyam." He says, don't even think these are my poetry. It was coming to him. He would connect himself to the divine, to the celestial, to the higher being. And like a tunnel, would get inspired. And these words would come to him. Rather than thinking and worrying about, is it rhyming? Is the meter correct? Another amazing thing about Rumi's poetry that musicians love. Later on I have discovered later in life that he was a musician himself. Maybe that's why his poetry has this rhythm to it. He was playing the daf, same thing I'm holding, and he played some ney. He talks about his daf. One day he wakes up in the morning and he sees the mouse has eaten, because on those days all the dafs were from the natural skin. See, nowadays we have synthetic too. So the mouse ate a little bit of his daf, and then he says, "Oh God, you have given my daf to the mouse." He writes a poetry about that. So the hat is called sikke. And who knows what does the hat represent? Anyone on this side?
Tombstone.
Tombstone, exactly. Who said that? Bravo, yes. The hat represents the tombstone. Have you noticed they have this black, dark gown, so when they want to start the dance, first they have the gown. So they take the gown out, they respectfully fold it. And they kiss it, puts it on some side, and they come out of it. So let me start with the gown. The gown is really the world and this body with the density of the body we have. Body made of earth. Some say earth, some say soil, some say clay, some say dirt. I don't like the word dirt, but clay perhaps, or soil. So you free from this cage of density of the body, of the world. So you put the black gown and you put the hat on. This hat is your tombstone. What is the white long gown represent, do you think? Before I go to the same lady.
It's kiffen.
Anyone else? You said it already, I missed. You said shroud, right?
Kiffen.
Kafan, yes. Shroud in English, right? So as you know, Muslims, when we die, they wrap us in a piece of white cotton, usually a cotton that should not have been exposed to water. I am not sure what is the purpose of that, but brand new, clean, again, white to signify the purity of the soul. So white gown represents the kafan, as she says, the shroud. The hat is the tombstone. And then they start whirling, right? So notice they have one hand up and one hand down. So why do you think they have this position? Why one hand down, one hand up? Why do you think that is?
Save God and then save the people.
Exactly, bravo. Yes. So the person that practices the whirling, you empty yourself from especially all the unwanted attributes: jealousy, greed, anger, lust, whatever that is we're supposed to either get rid of or at least control, bring it to the balance, right? Like the ney, as a matter of fact. We'll get to the ney, the reed flute. So you empty what does not belong there, and you become a receptor, a transformer, transmitter. You receive, as the lady said, with the right hand from above, from that source of creation, from the one that has created everything. You receive, you want to call it blessing, good attributes, love, care, all of those. Some say energy, that's fine. You want to call it energy, that's perfectly fine. But all the goodness from above, from the world, the celestial world, and then goes through you, and with the left hand, you give to whom? To whom do we give?
The world?
To the world, exactly. Not just to other human beings, but to the all levels of being. Mineral, vegetal, animal, human, and beyond. And by turning and spinning, you spread this love and energy and the good divine attributes to everything around. So this practice that takes hours and hours is not easy. And I see again, I did say, unfortunately, a lot of things becoming commercialized. So that's why I caution you, Like Rumi says, ای بسا ابلیس آدم روی هست پس به هر دستی نباید داد دست. He says, be careful whose hand you're shaking. Devil can take a face of a human being. Make sure who that person is. So before you shake someone's hand, look into their soul. Do your homework. Before you read a book, do your homework. See who wrote it. What are this person's credentials? Before you read a translation of Rumi, ask yourself, do your homework. Is this person has the credentials to translate Rumi? I have at home 24 different books of Rumi's translations. He wrote everything in my mother tongue. I read them. They're so inaccurate. Some of the stuff are not even there. I understand, if we don't speak Persian, then we are at the mercy of translations. But really, some translation, unfortunately, the most famous ones are the most inaccurate. I'm not going to mention names, embarrass some embarrass some translators, but really, well, it's not surprising because they don't speak Persian. Right off the bat, you know that they're taking someone else's translation and changing it a little bit. So, was the first translation correct in the first place? So, it's very hard to translate Rumi because not only you have to have excellent and perfect command of Persian language, but in addition to that, you have to know a fair amount of Arabic because he uses a lot of Arabic words. You have to know the metaphor, the Sufi metaphor, when he says wine, when he says sugar, when he says tavern, when he says cup. What does he mean by those words? When he says pir, etc., etc., meykhane. In addition to that, you have to know really the Quran well, because constantly in many areas, not every poem, he refers to the Quran. So if you don't know the story, you would not know what is he talking about. He refers to the Bible, to the New Testament, to the Gospel. If you don't know the Gospel, you wouldn't know what he's talking about. He refers to the Torah. If you don't know the Torah, you get lost. So really, it's very hard because to understand him fully, you should know the Torah, the Quran, the New Testament. Then, and some Arabic language, good enough to know the words that he's using, and the metaphor, and one more thing left, which is more important than all of the above. And that is, if you're not a practitioner, if you're not immersed into that subject, you wouldn't know. A practitioner knows, so someone who is involved would be a good person to translate Rumi. They would know what is he talking about. So I'm saying that because all my life I've been a teacher, so I can't get out of academia, even on my mind, so I always try to shed some light on what should be done. So do your homework and always check the credentials. Okay, so shall we do some songs? Are we ready for some music? All right. I'm going to have all of you participating with the music. You may say, but we don't know the words. You don't have to know the words. Participate with your heart. This setting is really beautiful and reminds me of how probably it was at Rumi's time, because like I say, he would have everyone in his home. He was interfaith. While he was a believer, a Muslim, but he was interfaith, and he welcomed Jews, Christians, Zoroastrians, Buddhists, even non-believers, even idol worshippers. He does say that. Remember that poem, famous poem? He says, Baza, Baza, haram ke hasti baza. Ger kafir o gabr o but parasti baza. He says, come, come. Whoever you are, whatever you are, come. If you're an idol worshipper, if you're a Zoroastrian, if you're a Buddhist, whatever you are, this is not the threshold of hopelessness. That's what I meant when I said he believed in spreading unconditional love. regardless of who you are, what your beliefs are. He says, my job is to give him love. So remember, acceptance is good, but it's not enough. To love people. So, as I said, Rumi wrote all his work in Persian, so I will sing some of his own poetry for you. But I will do some in Turkish as well, because I see we have a lot of Turkish people here. The Turkish would not be Rumi, because he did not write in Turkish, as you know. So guess whose poetry I would be reading, or would be singing in Turkish? Yes, somebody said Yunus, right? Right. Yes, Yunus actually met Rumi. They were kind of contemporary. He was younger than Rumi. Rumi was considered, his father was, as you know, was very much of an academician and a true scholar. And Sheikh Fariduddin Attar, very famous mystical poet, who was older, more like Rumi's father's age, was sitting one day and Rumi's father was passing by, and Rumi was at the time, when we say Rumi, Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi, of course this goes without saying, was 7 years old. He says, look at the sea coming and being followed by the ocean. Do you see what it meant? He referred to the father, who was the most famous philosopher, scholar of his time in his region, as the sea of knowledge. And he says, followed by the ocean. He recognized, he saw in the 7-year-old Rumi that essence that was shining. You know, someone with an inner eye can see through you. In other words, can see your soul. Rumi says, دیده‌ای خواهم که باشد حق نما. I want a pair of eyes and a sight that sees the haq, truth. چشم دل باز کن که جان بینی. Open the eyes of the heart so you can see the soul. Eyes of the heart. Of course, eyes of the head, it's incomplete. So much things we don't see with the eyes of the head. But eyes of the heart. Because we have 5 dimensions, right? And the 5 dimensions, the 5 senses I'm talking about, very limited. Did you know Rumi talks about the 10th sense? We say 6th sense. My 6th sense is waking up, or I felt it. Did you know that Rumi believes that we have 10 senses? 6th sense, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10, it goes on. And I quote him directly. He says, پنج حسی هست جز این پنج حس. There are other 5 senses than the 5 senses you know. آن ز زر سرخ و این ماند چو مس. That other 5 sense is like the pink gold, and this is چو مس. Mes means copper. The one we have is copper. The other one we're supposed to waken up is pure pink gold. He says we have to start awakening them. So it's true, we need to sharpen our senses. But those are these inner senses that potentially is put in our souls. Okay, let's do some music. If some of you, if you know the words, You know, you can sync with when the chorus sings, uh, and then and if not, as I said before, just with your heart. Connect your heart. That's the best thing. There's firework. So is the sound of the lute or oud loud enough? You can hear it?
Maybe read it.
We're going to start with one of Rumi's poem. Let me give you the mic.
What is praised is one. So the praise is one too. Many jugs being poured into a huge basin. All religions, all this singing one song. The differences are just illusion and vanity. Sunlight looks slightly different on this wall than it does on that wall, and a lot different on this other one, but it is still one light. We have borrowed these clothes, these time and space personalities from a light, and when we praise, we pour them back in.
Here is the Persian. ای با من و پنهان چو دل از دل سلامت میکنم. تو کعبه هر جا روم قصد مقامت میکنم. هر جا که هستی حاضری از دور در ما ناظری. شب خانه روشن می شود چون یاد نامت می کنم. As I said before, we are all under the weather a little bit, so it's hard for me to use my voice. I'm trying to make sure not to go over time. Another, we did say that there are different kinds of Sufis. Wherever you see Muslims, whatever country that have Muslims, amongst them there is also mystics, and mystics of Islam are called Sufis. And we said Sufis are women and men that are purifying, filtering, cleansing their inner selves. So, in other words, getting rid of their materialistic charges and getting ready to ascend go up, to be pulled up. There are another group of Sufis. Again, unfortunately, just like in Judaism, for instance, we have Hasidism, Hasidic Jews, Reform Jews, Ashkenazis. There are all kind of different divisions and what do you call it? Denominations. Same thing in Christianity. You have Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox. You have, the list goes on and on. Lutherans, and sometimes there are dualities in between them. Unfortunate, but it has been. I mean, remember during the Spanish Inquisition, people from Spain, they would actually make a war on England because they were different kind. They were becoming Protestant, and Catholics didn't like that. So Christians killing Christians because they had different denominations, or they had different interpretations of the same religion. Same thing. Unfortunately, sometimes you have different groups of Sufis that have different take, and that's perfectly fine. Sufis, if they're really Sufis, they're very, very peaceful. The Sufis are not, in general, aggressive, because the teaching of Sufi teaching is really to be very mild and loving, caring. But again, like I said, unless they're not really aware of that. There are another group that, for instance, the Shia, you have in Islam, you have Shias and Sunnis. The Shiites are, I don't want to get too much into the doctrine of the difference, but they're both Muslims. They both believe in one God of Abraham. The God is always God of Abraham, by the way. Goes back to that one God of Abraham. That's why we say we are from people of Abraham, Millat Ibrahim. And then Ummat or Ummah, as the Arabs say, of Muhammad. Then Deen, Islam. And then you have Mazhab, which is denomination. Some are Sunni, some are Shia. And then you have Maslak even. So that they say, for instance, we are from one brotherhood or group of Sufism. That's Maslak. So they get divisions, further and further. Mevlevi order, it means order. Like Mevlevi order, you have Geylanis, you have Haji Bektash Veli in Turkey, who I love very much. Any Haji Bektashis here or any Alevis here? Don't have. Yes, so Haji Bektashis are also another group of mystics. Again, they have different take, but we should not think it's my way or highway. Remember, it's always to open our arms and hearts to other groups that have different approach. Let me sing another song for you. There was a man long ago, at Muhammad's time, 1400 years ago. His name was Veysel Karani. I am sure that the Turks know. In Arabic, he was from, does anyone know where was he from? Yemen. Exactly, he was from Yemen. And he was, in Arabic you would say, Oveys Qaran, I think, of course, with my Persian accent. But in Turkish, you would say, Uveys Akaran becomes Veysel Karani. So why is he so special? He never had the chance to meet Prophet Muhammad because he was taking care of his blind mother. And he was in Yemen, and but his heart was so connected with Muhammad and wanted to be there. His soul was like always flying to be there with them. I mean, I have experience, when you are with your spiritual teacher and, you do everything together, meaning you eat together, you walk together, you have meetings every night, you read, you pray, you meditate, etc. You fast. And of course, everybody had a job, so they had their daytime job. But Muhammad said, I think Rumi put beautifully, he says, Pishamani dar Yamani dar Yamani Pishamani. Means you are with me, but your soul may be elsewhere. He talks about his close companion, Muhammad says that. But Uveys Qaran or Veysel Karani, who is in Yemen, so far from me, but he really is next to me the whole time, because of course Muhammad could feel that Veysel, now I'm saying because the host is Turkish, we're going to stick to the Turkish term, so was right from here and connected to my heart. So this beautiful poems are written by Yunus about Veysel Karani. So we're going to sing that together. Thank you so much.
Give us a translation of what these two songs mean, a loose translation.
Translation?
For those of us who do not understand Persian or, Farsi.
Sure.
And also, how do these songs play into the...
We get to the questions later.
Well, I just thought, when we're listening to it, it's nice to have a...
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the problem. That's the problem with with all the languages we have on Earth. We cannot right away know it, but we'll give you a translation.
Thank you.
Sure. Gail, why don't you read another poem from Yunus, because I sang Yunus. I have some nice translations by a friend of mine. Good.
Your love has taken me.
Let me give you the mic. Hold on one second.
Your love has taken me away from me. You're the one I need. You're the one I crave. Day and night I burn, gripped by agony. You're the one I need. You're the one I crave. I find no great joy in being alive. If I ceased to exist, I would not grieve. The only solace I have is your love. You're the one I need. You're the one I crave. Lovers yearn for you, but your love slays them. At the bottom of the sea, it lays them. It has God's images. It displays them. You're the one I need. You're the one I crave. Let me drink the wine of love, sip by sip. Like Majnun, live in the hills, in hardship. Day and night, care for you holds me in its grip. You're the one I need. You're the one I crave. Even if at the end they make me die and scatter my ashes up to the sky, my pit would break into this outcry. You're the one I need. You're the one I crave. Eunice Emery, the mystic, is my name. Each passing day fans and rouses my flame. What I desire in both worlds is the same. You're the one I need. You're the one I crave.
Wasn't that beautiful? As you can see, Yunus, who's also one of my favorite, was burning with the same passion. There is only one source, there is only one God, God of Abraham. We all go back to that. So all the religions, all the denominations, all the different colors, different races, different gender, everything, mineral, vegetal, animal, human, at the end of the day, from one source we come, to the same source we go. So the destination is one. Another song, so I combined Persian and Turkish. Rumi says, Hilat raha kon aşığa, divane şo, divane şo. وندر دل آتش درآ پروانه شو پروانه شو هم خویش را بیگانه کن هم خانه را ویرانه کن آنگه بیا با عاشقان هم خانه شو هم خانه شو. So my translation from my friend, my own translation. حیلت رها کن عاشقا. Abandon the trickeries of the world. دیوانه شو, become crazy, become mad. Lose your sanity. وان در دل آتش درآ. Enter the heart of fire. Go right into the middle of the flame. پروانه شو. Parvane, some people translate by mistake butterfly, but it's really moth. They say moth is not very poetic, so why would I use moth, you know? Butterfly is beautiful, but they don't understand there's a huge difference. Butterfly flies during the day. It's very beautiful, I agree. Goes around the flowers and sucks the nectar, right? But moth is very different, and there is a reason it became the symbol of lovers. Anyone can tell me why moth?
It knows it's going to die if it goes near the flame, and it still goes.
Exactly. Moth loves the light. Butterfly is not the same. Butterfly doesn't fly towards the light. As a matter of fact, they take a nap at night. Moth cannot help it, is beyond the control. It gets attracted towards the light. And it's interesting, we see all the living beings, they appreciate light, but to different extent. And different religions talk about God being the light. For instance, when Moses saw God and talked to God, he says, I saw a light or burning bush, right? But in a form of light, brilliance. Jesus goes even further. He says, I am the light and the truth. In Islam, we say, Allahun nuru samawat wal ard. Nur is also light. So in all the Abrahamic religions, especially, you know, God is referred to as the light. And moth, that is very delicate, it flies right into the flame of a candle, it gets burned, it falls down, moves its legs, the wings, and as soon as it feels a little bit better, it gets up again and goes right into the flame again. And this happens over and over until the moth loses the life and gives, in other words, give the life to the life, the creator of the life. So this persistence and this unconditional love for the light became a symbol to the lovers of God. That's why, especially in Persian, I'm not familiar with some of the languages, I don't know, but Persian and Turkish for sure, parvane, we say parvane. It's oftentimes used. So, وَاندَر دِلِ آتش درآ پروانه شو. Enter the heart of the flame like the moth. هم خویش را بیگانه کن، هم خانه را ویرانه کن. Means become a stranger to yourself and become stranger to your house. House here, it means really our body. As I said before, he describes our soul as a bird and our body as a cage. So during the time that we are in this earthly life, We are imprisoned in the body, this earthly body, this earthly garment. Elsewhere he says, مرغ باغ ملکوتم نیم از عالم خاک. I am a bird of the paradise, malakut, referring to higher and higher levels of heavens. He says, I'm not really from the earth. چند روزی قفسی ساختم از بدنم. Only for a few days I am in this cage, قفس, in this cage of body. ای خوش آن روز که پرواز کنم تا بر دوست. How beautiful the day that I fly back to the arm of the beloved, to the chest of the beloved. Bar means really chest. تا بر دوست به هوای سر کویش پر و بالی بزنم. So then when I arrive at his alley, at his residence, I will open my wings and I will demonstrate, my love for him. So this is how he talks about God. No wonder he calls his, night of departure his wedding night. Talking about the daf earlier on, Rumi says, Maya bi daf b'chak man baradar. Do not come, O brother, to my funeral without your daf. He says, bring your daf. Maya bi daf b'chak man baradar. که در بزم خدا بی دف نشاید. One should not go to the gathering, a divine gathering, without the daf. This is how much he loved the daf. And you see all different orders of Sufis, they use one kind or another kind of daf. Some call it daf, some call it duf, some call it dap. A very similar name. It's a very ancient instrument. Goes back at least 5,000 years. Zoroastrians used to use it too. Incidentally, Zoroastrians were not fire worshippers. Some by mistake called them fire, talking about the light earlier on. Moses saw God in a form of light. Jesus says, I am the light and the truth. Quran says, Allahu nuru samawati wal ard. Zoroaster belonged to 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. They didn't have electricity, so they had fire. Fire is symbol of warmth, light, brightness, it cleanses as well. They were not fire worshippers. Even idol worshippers, they were not stupid enough to think those little pieces of wood were really God. Rumi talks about that. But of course, Abraham came and said, well, now it's time to connect to that invisible one source of creation, rather than having these little pieces of, wood or clay or stone or whatever it is that they used to make. So let me sing this for you. Thank you so much. I'd like to talk about the ney, instrument ney, and I think you have the poem on ney. Rumi talks about the ney in details. Earlier on, we were saying Sufis purify themselves, their souls, from whatever attributes that are not divine. Ney has something very special and has similar metaphor. So I'll ask the audience, why do you think ney is so special, and why do you think Sufis right away jumped on this instrument? Ney goes back by far before the Sufi time. Sufis are, as we said, they're mystical dimension. Sufis are the mystics of Islam, therefore they are only 1400 years old. The concept of Sufism, of course, existed forever. The concept, like I say, for me, the Sufi, because like I said, that's the mystics of Islam use that term. But this concept of purifying your soul, Christians did it, Jews did it, they're still doing, other religions too. So, same thing with the ney. The ney, for instance, King David, we say Prophet Dawood, right? You heard that. Used to play many musical instruments. He actually invented many musical instruments as well, such as the David harp, right? The harp is named after David. He played the ney, amongst other instruments. His ney, of course, had 7 joints. Today, some of the neys that are around the world have 9 joints, but they also make them in 7 joints as well. Today, I brought a one modeled after David's ney. So, but does anyone know why ney became a metaphor in Sufism?
Because it's empty inside.
Bravo, right on the subject. Exactly. So you chisel it out. Ney is nothing but a cylinder, a hollow cylinder. It does not even have a mouthpiece that makes it sound. Like some of the flutes, they have mouthpiece. Anyone can blow on it. This you can blow on either end. No sound will come out. It's very hard to make this sound. Takes a long time just to make the sound, and after you make the sound, then you have to control the sound. But Rumi says, chisel yourself like the ney. Empty yourself from what does not belong there. So you become hollow. From greed, from anger, from anything that is out of the balance. Because some of the attributes that we have, is not that we have to kill them, like the old-fashioned mystics. Some of the old-fashioned mystics in the past, they used to kill. You're supposed to bring it to balance. Certain things you have to just avoid, but certain things you have to bring it to balance. So the ney only will sound if it is empty inside, as our friend said. So, see now, it sounds. There are incidentally two different distinct way of playing the name, with the lips and with the teeth. So with the lips, I give you a little demonstration. It has a whistly, very clean sound. Then there is the other type. Does anyone know how is the other type? It's called interdental. It goes between your front upper teeth and has a different kind. The Persian play it that way, interdental. So, are you going to
I apologize, my voice is a little bit, but I'll try. Listen to the reed that is complaining and narrating the story of separation. Ever since they have plucked me from the red land, my laments have driven men and women to deep sorrow. I want someone with a heart pierced by abandonment, so that I may tell him about the pain of my longing. He who falls aloof from his origin seeks an opportunity to find it again. I am mournful in all sorts of company, and am sought by the happy as well as by the unhappy. Everyone becomes friends with me according to his faculty of perception, and many do not seek my inner secret. My secret is not distant from my cries, but physical eyes and ears do not possess the light to see it. In fact, the body from the spirit and the spirit from the body are not concealed, yet not too many are allowed to see it. The sound of the neigh is fire. It is not the ordinary wind, but he who does not have this fire, may he become non-existent. It is the fire of divine love that has entered the neigh. It is the yearning for love that has brought the wine into action. The neigh is friends with anyone who has been deserted, and its musical divisions have torn off veils too. Who has seen an antidote as well as a poison like the neigh? Who has seen a sympathizing and longing lover like the neigh?
Thank you so much. املى قلبي يقين الله الله ثبتني على حد هدين الله الله اغفر لي والمسلمين الله الله حسبي ربي جل الله 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 ما في قلبي غير الله 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 حسبي ربي جل الله الله ما في قلبي غير الله وتنهى كون ہے اللہ اللہ بادشاہ کون ہے اللہ اللہ مہربان کون ہے اللہ اللہ کیا اونچی شان ہے اللہ اللہ اس کی سب نشان ہے اللہ اللہ سب دلوں کی جان ہے اللہ اللہ حسبی ربی جل اللہ 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 ما في قلبي غير الله حسبي ربي جل الله الله ما في قلبي غير الله Thank you so much. Keeping track of the time. So we have 5 minutes to answer any questions you may have. Feel free regarding the poetry, the musical instruments, the words, anything you may want to know. Sure.
Do you have a translation that you would recommend?
You're not the only one who asked that question. Unfortunately, there are very few competent translators. Like I said, right off the bat, they need to speak perfect Persian, otherwise they're stealing from someone else's translation. So, in the meantime, I recommend, what's the gentleman? Yes, Nicholson's, he was a very responsible person. His English is old. So, a lot of contemporary people may have difficulty with his English because not only is it very sophisticated, beautiful English, of course, mind you, but it's a little bit old-fashioned. Some of the words we don't use anymore. But it's worth, starting with his. And I'll have a couple of other recommendations. I'll ask Gail to give her email to you to send that to you. But yeah, if you want Turkish, a friend of mine who passed, Talat Halman, was a personal friend. He was the Minister of Culture in Turkey for many, many years. He wrote over 35 books himself. He has a good translation of Rumi from Persian to Turkish, if you want Turkish. But if you want English, I'll recommend, what was the name again? Nicholson. Yes, because like I said, Nicholson really put decades of his life into that, and he was very responsible. He would not distort. He would do his best to, I'm not saying he's perfect, but that's a perfect start. Yeah, there are a couple others I'll get to you through Gail. Any other questions? Yes.
You refer to it as the Lut first and then the Oud, but I thought the Oud had no frets, although I noticed that your instrument did have frets. So I was curious if that's a different type of Oud, or would it be considered a different type of instrument? Or
right, very good question. First of all, the